This is my Husqvarna riding mower. It's a YTH22V46. I'm getting ready to change the oil on it. These have a nice hour meter on the dashboard that you can use to know when you change your oil, when you should change your oil. And I am going to be changing it for the first time, so I'll open the hood here. And this is where you add the oil. And then up underneath the engine is where you drain it from, which I'm going to probably have to remove this little plastic piece from the body. And there's an oil filter here, which I didn't get an oil filter for this change, but I'll have to buy one and then change the oil again before the year's up. So I'm just going to leave that oil filter in this time. I wouldn't recommend it, but since I didn't buy one and I'm up in the mountains, and I'd just rather change the oil right now and get it changed. So let's get it done. So before changing the oil, I'm going to start the engine up and let it warm up a little bit so the oil is nice and warm and easy to drain. So let it run for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to shut it down and go from there. Alright, to get this little plastic piece off of the body, there's this little rubber piece that you kind of pull the plastic forward, and it kind of slips over that. So you give it a little tug, and then you grab the frame here and pull straight up, and that pulls the little plastic pieces out of the slot that they're in here on the side, and that gives you access to the oil drain plug, which is right here. So you don't make the same mistake I just did and dump about 5 or 6 ounces of oil down the driveway. I'm going to show you how this guy works. Anyway, so there's this little yellow plastic thing that goes over the oil drain. Well, there's a little twist thing. You have to twist it and pull it out, but before you do that, you take this cap off and you stick your hose of choice, a 1/2-inch hose, which I think they included with the mower anyways, and you run that down to the drain pan, and then you twist this a 1/4 turn or 1/8 of a turn, and then pull it straight out, and the oil starts to run out. Okay, so I got the hose sitting in the top of the oil pan, and here we go. So give this a good 1/8 of a turn to the left, and then pull straight out. Oh. And then don't pull too hard, because it comes off. And then the oil just runs down this pipe into the drain. So here I am still making a mess out of my driveway, but good thing it's dirt. Alright, now that the oil draining is pretty much done, and I just want to reiterate that this little quick access drain plug thing it has a learning curve to it, because when you go to pull it out, it comes off very easily, and then you end up dumping oil down the side of the tractor. So you give it a little turn to the left, and then you gently pull it forward with the hose attached. And it did it again to me, but what you want to do is you want to pull it so it doesn't exceed that point right there. Otherwise you're going to just end up dumping oil down the side of the tractor and then onto wherever you're at. You can see a little oil dripping off of it right now, which is kind of irritating, but just a heads up for you. Alright, to close this guy off, you want to push it in until it hits that stop point right there. Then you want to rotate it to the left, or to the right, sorry, until it's recessed inside of the pin is recessed in this little nook. And then you can pull the supplied hose off and clean any residual oil off of the side of the tractor and at the end of this plug before you put the cover over it. You probably want to get all the oil out of that little plug hole. And then you put this cap back on. Snap it in place, make sure it's nice and tight. And then double check and make sure that you're still rotated with the pin in here. Because it would be a disaster if this came undone while you were mowing your lawn. Alright, since I live up in the hills, I don't have any flat spots to work on. So when I refill the oil on this, I need to make sure the engine's level in both directions so I don't overfill it or underfill it, whatever the case would be. But I'm going to level the tractor out and then we're going to fill it with oil. Alright, to level the tractor out, I just put some split wood underneath the front tire and a little bit underneath the back tire. And then we're level front to back. And I'm hoping that the cover of this thing is pretty much level to the ground, but we're level side to side also. So this is where you add the oil to the engine and clean it off before we take it off so we don't get any dirt particles in the engine. But this has the dip tube on it to check the oil. And you're going to fill the oil between these two holes that are drilled into the dipstick. So we're going to clean that off, and we're going to put a funnel in here and then slowly add oil and check it until we're between those two spots on the dipstick. So after about 7 iterations of adding oil and double checking the dipstick, I just cleaned the dipstick off with a paper cloth so it's nice and clean. And then there's like these little indentations on the plastic cap which you can line up, but make sure that the dipstick goes all the way down when you push down and try not to twist it, because you'll pick up oil off of the inside of this tube here. And then you want to make sure that you're between those two marks, and you see one of them, the lower one, is full of oil, so that's why you can't see through it as well. And then the upper one is not. So you don't want to overfill these engines. So just make sure you're between those two marks and you're good to go. So next thing I'm going to do is make sure everything is tight. This cap is locked in place and this guy is still locked in place, and then I'm going to run the engine for a little while and then I'm going to double check the oil level. So this is that nifty little hour meter that sits on the dash, and you want to go ahead and fill the engine, and we're going to double check the oil. So we're just going to let it sit for a couple minutes after we killed the engine, let the oil kind of just settle back down to the bottom of the crankcase, and then we'll check the oil again, the level again. Okay, so I let the oil settle down for a little bit in the crankcase after running it. These bigger engines require a little bit longer to settle the oil down. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean this dipstick off on this paper towel I got here. And we're going to stick the oil dipstick in. Make sure it seats to the bottom. Try not to twist it because it picks up a little bit of oil off of the side walls here on this tube. And trying to figure out where that's at on that stick, and it's right between it's right between the two holes. So I'm going to call that good, and we're going to stick her back in and put the cover back on, and alright, make sure that guy's on there good. And then I always like to double check, triple check things, but this guy's still locked in place. And then we're going to have to put the cover on. So there's this little rubber piece that we had to pull past before to get the cover off. But you just wiggle this guy back and forth while you're pulling it out, and it comes right out. And that'll allow us to put the cover back on. So we're going to put this cover back on the side here. So to put it back on, this is the reverse of what we did before. And you got these two little locating pieces of plastic that go into these two slots. So you just put it right above those and kind of give it a push down, and it latches into place. You just want to double check, make sure there's nothing pinched with this wire here, and pull it out. And then where that little hole is here that you pulled that little rubber plug out of, or that plastic plug out of, is just stick that guy in there like that, push it in firmly, and we're back on. So it's time to put the tractor away. And thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful for your oil change. Thank you.